This is the Post Shift Podcast, a raw look at the hospitality industry. Okay, Post Shifters, how's everybody doing? How was the weekend? It is Tuesday, so that means it's a post shift shot time. So, last week I was a little low energy, so this week I've made sure I've been caffeinated enough. I'm drinking a lovely drum roaster from Hey Happy, and I'm actually drinking that in my lovely, if you can see that, my Sons of Vancouver Frankenshawn mug. So I wanted to give a little call out for that because that was a really cool surprise a year ago. So I wanted to stay focused and charged today, so I'm caffeinated up as I usually am. I asked a few of the viewers last week what they want to hear, questions and answers. So one of the ones was from Kevin. He wanted to know about employee-employer negotiations, which is a tough one because the cost of living in Victoria, or pretty much everywhere, let's be honest, is astronomical in comparison to what you can make. The hospitality industry is hard, and for many, many, many years, staff have been taken advantage of. Now, I'm not saying that is across the board generalization. There's a lot of great employers out there, but there's also bad ones. And I think with the cost of living has, and you've all heard about it, and I really don't want to make this a topic on how much minimum wage should be and so on and so forth. I think everybody in the hospitality industry is probably underpaid in comparison. But cost of living in that is a whole political subject, and I don't need a bunch of trolls trolling on my video for this one. So I wanted to keep it about negotiations. What do you do when you get a job? Now, this is the big one because for a really long time, employers and employees haven't been transparent with each other. And I think that's a big one that everybody needs to be more transparent about what they expect and what they want. For a long time, and I've been in this position, I'm sure a lot of people who are listening and watching have been in this position, where you get a job as a bartender, then within like a month, you're the bar manager, not making any more money, and you're responsible for inventory and liquor ordering and stock take and training and everything like that. So I think the root of it all is like we don't have great human resources or HR in this industry, which is the biggest flaw that we have, because we don't lay out exactly what jobs entail. And I think that's where our issue lies when it comes to job getting and employee-employer negotiations, is the fact that we don't know what we want from our staff. And that's a big deal. I think a lot of the times employers either do it inadvertently or inadvertently, where they've put a position out and advertise for it, someone gets it, and then they underpay or they pay a market value, and then they put a whole bunch of responsibilities on the person. And I know that has happened everywhere. So really, the first step is transparency. Employers, please be transparent what you want from your employees. This is a big one for most of the employers out there. Be transparent. Tell them exactly what you're expecting of them. At the get-go, at the interview, at the job posting, tell them exactly what you expect. Because telling them what they exactly expect, they know what they're walking into. Now, on the flip side, employees, tell the employer what you expect. Like, what do you want? Like, don't understate what you're expecting or what you want from this from the position, and then within 3 months be a passive-aggressive asshole who hates everybody because the employer keeps dumping stuff on them and they don't know how to say no. And don't get me wrong, I know that it's hard sometimes because you need to have a job and you need to pay your bills and pay your rent and that sort of thing. I completely understand. But there's also a place where you can't be put under the ringer every single day because you signed up for something that you're not doing now. So transparency is a big one. Now, transparency leads into the second thing. Set realistic goals and terms. Now, if an owner wants their bar to all of a sudden increase sales by 5 to 10%, they hire one person to do that 5 to 10%. They don't tell this person at the job interview that's what they are expecting, but after 3 months and they haven't hit those 5 to 10% gains, the employer bounces the bar manager or bartender or whatever they hired for and hires someone else. And you see a lot of spinning doors in this industry of people going in and out, in and out, in and out, in and out, in and out. And that's a big deal too, is that it shouldn't be in and out, and you got to set realistic goals. And when you're doing the interview, you got to talk to the person and say, okay, I'm expecting 5% gains in my bar sales. Can you do this? If the person says, well, I don't think I can, or maybe I can, or they don't even understand what you're expecting, being transparent and setting your realistic terms and goals is a big thing, and it's a thing that I think a lot of owners don't understand what they want. So you need to really reverse engineer what goals you want and put the employees in that position. If you want to increase bar sales, you sure as hell better know that you need to put in some money for bar training. Like, you can market the crap out of a bar, but if your bartenders don't know how to make a good drink or their service sucks, you can't do much about that. So bar training is an expense that you need to forego, and I've talked about this. A 2% increase in bar sales covers training tenfold. It is kind of insane that if you increase your bar sales by 2 to 5% and your bar's making $5,000 on a Friday night, training doesn't seem that expensive when you ask for compulsory training for an hour session once a week for all your staff. Next step is tangible ROIs. So, as an owner, you look at your employees as investments. Like, you put training in, you put money in, you give them the tools, equipment, booze, liquor, different ingredients, so on and so forth. That's an investment on the owner's part. And on the flip side, the bartender wants to make more tips. So I talk about the three-tiered, three-sided happiness chart, which is a three-sided triangle where each side is equal, where the owner's making money and happy, where the bartenders are making money and happy, where the guests are having a great experience and are happy. These three things have to be equal, and they have to be on a three-sided triangle that is equal. If you start to skew each one side, someone is getting screwed in the process, whether it be the owner, the guest, or the bartenders. So tangible ROIs, they have to be tangible. Guest experience and guest happiness is very hard to make a tangible ROI, but it is doable. You need to talk to your staff about this and make sure that your reviews and all that sort of thing are good reviews. The next one is, every 3 months, we sit down as owners and managers and we look over our figures for the quarter and say, okay, cool, we've done great bar sales, we've got great costings, we've got great customer satisfaction. But do we sit down every 3 to 6 months and talk to our staff? And I think this is the next step, is that if you're increasing your sales, your staff wages and your cost of labor should increase too, especially for the core key people, your chefs, your line cooks, your bartenders, your bar managers, your head servers, your sommeliers. As an owner, as you make more money, you're talking about a small percentage going back to the staff, because those staff that you've invested in also expect a return on those intangibles. And so, one thing, going back to that HR element, it's a hard one to understand, because like, for HR, we just don't have HR managers in the hospitality industry unless you're looking at a big hotel or something like that in a union position. So you need to check in with your staff every 3 months, see how they're feeling about the position, see how they're feeling about the job, and getting that feedback and rewarding people who have busted their butt for you. And I think it's just about being aware and being there and understanding what it takes to build a business. So on a flip side of the ROIs for a staff member, you need to be realistic in going into a job when you're negotiating about how much money you should be paid. And that goes back to the tangible ROIs from the owner's point of view, because the owner wants to see returns, profit margin, that sort of thing. So investing more money into the staff, they need to keep bringing those ROIs. So if you're just a chef or a bartender who's worked in a union position for 5 years, you can't really ask for the same amount of money that you made in your union job at a mom and pop shop. And that the realisticness of that is where you can go in and you do have to take a hit pay wise, but you say at the beginning of the interview, you say, hey, let me give you 3 months. I'm going to give you 3 months of this pay rate. I'm going to increase your bar sales by X amount. I'm going to show you that what I do gives you a tangible ROI. Can we sit down in 3 months? And this is at the interview stage. I'm talking about when you haven't even got the job. In 3 months, can we sit down and seriously talk about how my pay will increase if I do all these things for you? Because it's a two-way street. And I think for a really long time, because of the way our transient nature is in our industry, for a long time, owners have taken advantage of it and staff have taken advantage of it, where they just leave with no notice and that sort of thing. So it's a two-way street, and it's a give and take from both employer and employee. And that's kind of a big deal. That relationship has to continue and be good for everybody involved. And if you have happy staff, you have happy clientele. If you have happy clientele, they spend more money and you're happy as an owner. So this is all big things to make your business more viable. And I might be blowing smoke and everybody's going to look at this and go, yeah, you know what, screw it. This is completely wrong. But I think we sometimes take out the actual people element in our job interviews, and we lose sight of what we're actually doing. We serve people by people. They're not figures, they're not numbers, they're not percentages, they're not the cost of limes changing every week. And I think if you nurture that, you nurture a good clientele, a good workplace for your staff, and everybody wins. So that's my little take on employer-employee negotiations. The next question comes from Brady. When is it a good time to leave the industry? I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that are thinking that it's probably a good time to leave the industry. Is it a good time to leave the industry from the job that you're currently in? And in that current job, do you hate it? I think that's the first question you should ask yourself, is like, leaving the industry is fine, but is it the job that's pissing you off, or is it the industry that's pissing you off? And I think deciding on when you leave the industry is a very difficult thing. For me, don't get me wrong, I'm sort of done with bartending, like working the late nights, my feet are shot out, my knees and hips are crap. I love bartending, but is it something that I can see long-term? I'm going on 40 next year, so can I see bartending as a long-term, like full-time bartenders? And there's plenty of guys out there that are 40, 50, 60 years old that are still bartending. What I looked at is that if I want to stay in this industry, in Victoria, especially, is that I have to diversify what I do, which is why you see all the stuff that you see on my social media and the podcast and the videos and everything. So I think you need to examine not necessarily when it's time to leave the industry, or when is it time to leave the job you're currently in. When is it time? Do you like training? Then go and get some schooling, and then go and be a trainer at a college. If you love training, teach people how to be a chef. Be realistic on what happens when you become a chef. No more Food Network bullshit. Like, be realistic. So at the end of the day, like, you diversify what you do. If you're good at training, create a program where if you love inventory and stock take, which I know a lot of people are like, well, that's crazy. Who would love that? But I do. If you love costing, become a consultant. And it's hard work. But which would you prefer? Would you like to be happy, working hard, making probably a lot less than what you usually make? Or would you like to stay in the job, working that 60, 70-hour weeks, hating your life, and not being happy? And I think it's not necessarily like, when is it good to leave the industry? It's about, when is it good to move on and change the job? And I think there's plenty of great chef jobs out there. There's plenty of great bartender jobs. There's plenty of great server jobs. You're not stuck in a position that you can't be happy with. And I think for hospitality especially, there's always tons of work out there. Chef jobs, that sort of thing. Everybody's always scraping for chefs and for bartenders and stuff like that. So it's not necessarily about when you should leave the industry, but when you should leave the job you're in now. And if you are just done with chef work or cooking and working the line and stuff like that, have a think about what else you're good at. Could you do a podcast where you're cooking? I've picked up video cameras. I've got video cameras that are $99 off Amazon that you're watching right now. And I'm just doing videos. I have it set up on my desk. Set it up in your kitchen. Do cooking videos. It doesn't take that long. It gets better and better and better. Put it up on YouTube. Get some attention. Become a consultant. Become a teacher. There are plenty of roles out there that you can diversify your current skills into becoming. Use your knowledge that you have. If you've been cooking for 20, 30 years, look at what you can do. Look at what you can build and bring to someone if you're a consultant. So for Brady, I don't think there's ever a point where you should think about when's a good time to leave the industry, because I think we're very passionate people. So putting a business first passion thing to it, I've done a podcast about that a couple of weeks ago. I think you need to monetize your passion. And that's something we never really think about. We just think about it as our passion that we get paid for, and that's pretty much it. Whereas if you monetize your passion, you can really truly maximize what you can do in this industry. So that's my 2 cents on those two questions. I'm sure I've got a few more questions that I'll be answering soon. I hope you're enjoying the videos. Hope you're enjoying the podcast. And that's me out. Thank you.